Hello, Linkies. How are we today? It's the 19th of June. I'm in Ireland at the moment and it's raining cats and dogs. Where are we all in the world today? So I wanted to start off by apologising to those of you who signed up to last week's LinkedIn Live. There was technical hitch with LinkedIn. I did have a word with them about it, but I got an AI message back. But a lot of you who signed up didn't get a notification and didn't join either. So I really hope that this one works out this week. Do we have any of you online yet? I've actually just got a notification to say it's just started on LinkedIn. So there's such a big window of in between me going live and me getting messages from you. But this week, I've had quite a few of you who have asked me some really valuable questions that I would like to address on here. So I've loaded them up, and I actually had a coaching session first thing this morning, and one of my platinum subscribers. So I'm actually going to start with her because this is a perfect question to start with. So I saw the template you shared. Oh, actually, this is about CVs. I'm actually going to change the format, I think, of these LinkedIn Lives because a lot of you want to know about LinkedIn itself, CVs, job search, personal brand, etc. So I'm going to broaden the topic a little bit. I am kind of hell-bent on getting it out there into the world that most portfolios that I look at do need updating. So I will address more portfolio stuff than the other, but there's lots of options for you. So, and also, if you would like to subscribe to AE Recruitment, it's free. You will get 5 emails on CV, portfolio, LinkedIn, job search, and your personal brand. So 3 tips within each email to give you a little bit of an insight into all the options that you have when it comes to your job search. So anyway, back to the question. I saw the template you shared. So this is regarding some of the CVs that we've got in the portal that are free. Wouldn't this make the CV very long, even if I mentioned 2 to 3 projects for each place I worked at? I thought CVs were supposed to be 2, maybe 3 pages. Now, this is a misconception. There's not one hiring manager out there on this planet that is going to reject any job seeker because their CV is 5 pages, 6 pages long. They're looking to find out exactly the information that they need that's relevant to the jobs that they're hiring for. If you start reducing your CV to 1 or 2 pages, I guarantee you're not going to come up in certainly our searches, because we are looking for education, software. Some people leave out software or put etc. We're not mind readers, neither is the search facilities that we use in our CRM. So please list everything and don't abbreviate like senior down to SR or SNR that I've seen. Really kind of give the hiring manager, that's your audience at the end of the day, give them an insight into what you do on a daily basis. Please don't think that you should be restricting yourself in terms of pages. I just think it's a ridiculous thing. And some people in other industries, I know in IT, for example, their CVs are definitely a lot shorter than architectural and design, but that's a certain industry. And I think everyone seems to have heard that over the years and just think that that's for everyone. But certainly I've never come across a hiring manager that will reject anyone based on the length of their CV. So ignore what you've heard and just put the projects in and talk about your experience. We want to know who you are and all the capabilities that you have. So list them, please. So I've just seen that we've got some people who have come on. Rachel, hi Rachel. I hope I get to answer some of your questions. Lovely to speak to you earlier on today. And I'm going to keep going through. If you've got any other questions, Rachel, please just send them in and let's go for it. So what? Oh, this came up on LinkedIn this week, and it was, what shall I put in my portfolio if I'm a project manager in the fit out sector? Now, certainly from my perspective, I have never had a hiring manager in the fit out sector looking for a project manager who wants to see a portfolio. That's not necessarily what they're um, hiring you for. So on the consultancy side, I have had design project manager, and totally they want to see a portfolio. But certainly on the fit out side, I have never seen that. So what I would like you to do is ask your managers, like when they're interviewing people, do they look at portfolios as part of their hiring process? So, and part of their selection process. So, be more inquisitive at work. I actually had a meeting this week with someone who is going to come on to LinkedIn Lives. I'm going to start sending out emails to everyone that subscribes to AE Recruitment so that you've got a month's worth of an idea of who is going to come on to LinkedIn with me, and so that you can prepare and sign up ahead of time and all of this kind of stuff. LinkedIn is making it rather difficult. But anyway, we were having a conversation, and he primarily works with corporations. And we were talking about that they don't really have an idea of where they're going, etc. Hang on, I've kind of lost myself in talking about what I've got coming up. But yeah, so he brought up being more inquisitive. So generally, I think most of us, me included in my career, have thought, you don't want to ask these questions because you think that you should know it already, whereas you're not actually helping yourself by doing that. Be more curious in the workplace. Like, what should you be doing? Again, I had a coaching session this morning, and we were referring to NDAs, and I know NDAs have come up a lot when I've been doing these LinkedIn Lives. Like, what do I do? Because I've got NDAs all over my project, so I can't use any of them. Now, she has already spoken to one of her hiring manager, director, whoever it was, her manager, and had the open conversation with them about what to put in a portfolio. She wants to keep her portfolio updated. She's really proud of the projects that she's worked on, and they're awesome. They look great in her portfolio. But her boss was just like, right, okay, great. You can put in the project, but you can't mention X, Y, Z. So that's exactly what she's done. She's still put in the projects, but just the elements that she's allowed to. So, I think we should start kind of having these conversations, start getting curious about what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. And, it just makes it a lot easier for you in future years. If you're on top of putting your portfolio together, then it becomes a breeze when you're moving on and looking for that next job. So I really want you guys to get it into your head that update your portfolio on an ongoing basis. Most of you, what you do is get to the job search and you start sending your portfolios to me. And certainly in January this year, December, January, February this year, I was going through portfolio after portfolio after portfolio that's just awash with 3D renders. I don't know if those people have actually produced those 3D renders. There's no storytelling behind it. And it just doesn't, it's not cohesive. You are trying to build trust with the next employer, the person that's going to hire you. And they want to understand your capabilities, the processes that you work on, or the stages that you work on. And so the interview becomes a lot easier. I think most people at interview stage seem to talk themselves out of a job because their CV and portfolio are not aligned. So the CV says one thing, the portfolio says another, and it doesn't say enough. But hiring managers take that risk and go ahead with an interview because they see some sort of commonalities with what they're doing at this present time. However, when they get that person in the interview room and they're going through the portfolio, the candidate will start going, oh, talk about project management or something adjacent to what they're actually hiring for. So the portfolio is just like, well, that was really misleading. And then they don't get the job. So honesty is always the best policy. So, I really want you to sit down and list everything that you do on a daily basis, what the projects that you've worked on, and make notes as you go so that you're not forgetting when it's coming to the job searching stage. Because I think what most of you are finding is you're getting to the job search phase and you're panicking, you don't know what to do. And that's not when you're going to produce your best work. And we all know that when you're under stress and all of this, it becomes like, a race to get to the finish line. Whereas if you actually took your time to go through it when you're in the right mindset, then you're going to produce something that really kind of connects with the hiring managers. And also, if you update it over time, it's not so stressful. You're not trying to think about your personal brand and how your fonts should look. Is it consistent? Is your message consistent? All of that, when you come to a job search, is super overwhelming. So get ahead of it, get ahead of the game, start doing this now, start listing, open up your notes on your computer or whatever, start typing away about what you've been doing on each project. Don't wait until it comes to, the point that you're desperate for a job and you can't think because you're so stressed out about what you've got to do and what's ahead. So I'm getting we've got some comments coming in. Excellent stuff. Trisha, hi, lovely to have you here. Oh, thanks for the correction, spelling correction. John, lovely to see your name again. Thanks for coming on board. So this is something that I mentioned last week, but I looked at the figures for last week again, and it got up to just under 2,000 people that have watched this LinkedIn Live. And that is consistent week on week on week. I really want you guys to start interacting with each other, start really thinking about what you would like to know about putting your CV, portfolio, LinkedIn, job search together and your personal brand. Like I said at the beginning, I am going to change the format of these because I think some of you want to know more than just the portfolio, and that's great. So, we can cover these things. Actually, this morning in the coaching session of the Platinum subscriber, we were talking about visibility, etc. So from my perspective, that you have a plethora of options, and you will know that if you sign up to our website, it's free, you will get 5 emails with 3 tips on your CV, portfolio, LinkedIn, job search, and personal brand that you can implement straight away. Now, these are as a guide and an insight into just how much there is. We've got the Portfolio Masterclass. Sinead, hi, lovely to see your name again. We've got the Portfolio Masterclass, the AE Masterclass that literally covers everything. And then the Platinum, AE Platinum subscription, where you get direct access to me, unlimited. So you can ask away, work through all the modules step by step. So it's more of a linear process. And you're ticking every single box as you go. So it really kind of opens up your mind as to the options that you have when it comes to your job search. And believe you me, there are a lot. So in the CV, we cover about the length of your CV, the fonts, the colors that represent who you are. And everything falls into, they all kind of come into the personal brand element, because, we want you to stand out. And standing out doesn't mean using a generic CV template or a generic portfolio template. I want each and every one of you to be unique. And the only way that you're going to stand out is if you utilize the very skills that you've been taught in the design realm. So, there's plenty of options on the AE Recruitment website, which I would just love for you to go and have a look. You can get free templates in there. But I really want you guys to start being original Stop feeling like you're in a box and you've got all these rules that you have to adhere to. I think there's a misconception out there that you have to have a two-page CV. A two-page CV in architecture and design just doesn't work. Certainly, and then actually this rolls into one of the other questions that I've got. Where is it? Yay! Got it. Yeah. So LinkedIn user. I was told that my portfolio needs to be a maximum of 5 MB, but you've told me I need high resolution imagery. That will take me over that. What do I do? Okay, so this is another misconception. Now, what I want all of you to do is put together a portfolio of your work. We've had some of our clients at tier one companies just, send an email back to us saying, Hayley, the low resolution imagery in their portfolio is holding them back. Can you get them to go and update it? Now, we're lucky enough that some of our clients spend the time to come back to us and let us know that that's what they're thinking. By and large, you won't get feedback like this. We are very, very lucky to have some amazing clients that we work with who have actually helped us put the Portfolio Masterclass together. And we've just kind of spun off and done our own thing on everything else as well, using the information and learning that I found over the years in every other aspect. So, we've really perfected the Portfolio Masterclass itself. So we go into a lot more detail than what I ever discuss on these LinkedIn Lives, just so you know. And so we would have like urban designers go for, we would submit their details to this one particular client, and we had 2 portfolios that looked exactly the same because they'd come from the same company. Now, our client just said, Hayley, can you put them through your Portfolio Masterclass? And one of them was a clear winner. He actually got the job. He's been promoted to associate recently. So excellent work. But yeah, we've got these Portfolio Masterclasses and masterclasses on our website so that you can learn absolutely everything and gain access to me if you want that as well. So, don't feel restricted when it comes to your portfolio or your CV. That is there for people to make money out of you. So like these coaches that you see online, and maybe it works in certain sectors, but it certainly doesn't work in architecture and design. It leaves more questions than anything. And when hiring managers are looking for staff, they're at least one man short. They are not going to come back to us with feedback on every submission we make. It's just impossible. You have to consider that they've probably gone through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of CVs before they come to the likes of an external recruitment consultant like myself to help them find someone. So, we as a business have to level up everyone that we submit so that they are selected and there's an easygoing process. And this is why I'm doing these LinkedIn Lives, because I would get like 800 people apply to a job, and I'm going through portfolio after portfolio that doesn't contain the information required for the job description. So we would get people who would, and I'm never going to be able to stop this, but people by and large don't read the job descriptions. So the project experience that we're looking for, or the computer expertise we're looking for, you've got to consider, like, when a hiring manager gets us involved, they really do want us to find the best to slot into their environment that doesn't have a massive onboarding time, learning new software, learning regulations, learning about a new project. They want to know that they can slot into their environment, work well with their existing team, and it just makes for an easier process if you have everything in your CV and portfolio, so that we can make a proper assessment against the job description. So I hope that answers that. Madia, lovely to have you here. Do you guys have any questions? We need to get you guys a bit more engaged. You're all so quiet. 2,000 of you on a weekly basis sit there and watch, etc. And even if it's days or weeks or months down the line, please just post your question, because I'm sure if you're thinking this, there's the whole community who is thinking the same thing. They've got all these burning questions and they never ask them. You need to become more curious in your whole kind of workspace and career so that you can level up and you can find those roles that you really want. We're forever trying to find I say to people, like, I need to see a bit more of your personality in your CV. Humans make decisions. You just swallow that. Humans make decisions based on an emotion. So, if you're using AI or using a CV template and just rewording it, a little bit, then all you're doing is you're becoming a bit monotone. And I don't know, in actual fact, my LinkedIn feed is awash with people moaning about AI and, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. And I totally get it. But because that's what recruitment consultants have been seeing for decades in CVs. As soon as people started producing CV templates, everyone seems to have just jumped on this bandwagon of following, just transposing their information into a CV template and then going, yeah, I'm going to get the job because I've got my CV in the right CV template. It doesn't work like that. You all look generic. So, if you go through if you sign up on a recruitment and actually read through the CV templates and guide, what you'll find is I do actually say in there, please just use these as a guide. Please don't use the actual templates. I want you to stand out and I want you to be original. That's the only way you are going to stand out. So CVs in a human voice, please. Get AI to come up with ideas, but don't rely on that to portray who you are as a human. It's very different. We're not looking to employ an AI. We're looking to employ you. So we need your voice so that we understand a bit more about you, those qualities that you have, those hiring qualities that you have. So really kind of embrace who you are and just talk from a human voice. No one's going to chastise you for that. And then when it comes to your portfolio, talk about your involvement. It's no good kind of putting imagery into a document and just assuming that the reader knows exactly what you've been doing on each project. And again, this is the reason why some interviews don't actually go to a job offer of employment, because there's been a mismatch in what the hiring manager has thought that you are doing on a daily basis. So they get you in the interview room, you start talking about everything that you do, and they're just looking at this document thinking, that's not what I thought you did. So the honest you are, and the more that you start kind of getting vocal about what you do, the quicker that hiring process is going to speed up, Oh, Sinead, thank you very much. First question from the LinkedIn Live. Thank you, Sinead. Lovely to have you here again. What are the most common mistakes you see from architecture and interior architecture candidates who have good work but aren't getting interviews? So it does come to the portfolio. So I think when you see a plethora of portfolios that just contain 3D renders, how are you supposed to choose? It's I think they kind of hide behind a company name or a project name, and it's really difficult to decipher exactly what that person has been doing. Certainly on the interior side and architecture, in fairness, there's a tendency to just put in 3D renders and not put in any technical details, concepts, sketches, technical details, construction documentation. The list goes on and on and on. It seems like you just want us to kind of look at this pretty image like it's a brochure. That's not what we're trying to achieve here. You've got to think about who your audience is. Your audience, and by the way, companies, businesses make exactly the same mistake. If you go on company websites, is just like pretty imagery, but they're not taking you through the process of all the emotions behind it. So, when I go through a portfolio, I want to firstly, I want to understand what the brief was. I want to be transported to that briefing room and understand what the client is trying to achieve. So I want you to, then we want to understand your interpretation of what that brief was and how you work your way through each stage. So again, what I should say again is that I want you to sit there like this week, next week, whenever, when you're working on a project, and start like just jotting down exactly what you're doing on each project. Start getting that awareness of what am I doing? Because when it comes to putting together portfolios, it just seems to be a hero image and then a teeny tiny details or mood boards or whatever. We're looking to find individuals based on their work, not on the hero 3D render. And I've had meetings this week where this is happening with businesses as well. So when you have teeny tiny imagery in your portfolio, we have to zoom in to see what you've been doing. And it goes all pixelated. It's not high resolution. And then you've lost your opportunity. You have to put yourself in the position of a hiring manager. He's at least one person short, stressed out, I'm sure, has project deadlines. And so he wants to find that, or he or she wants to find that information as quickly as possible. And if you do that, if you find that information and put it clearly into the portfolio in a larger image, so forget the teeny tiny imagery and make them bigger, make your work bigger. So it makes for a much easier process when we're going through your portfolios. It's the experience that you're creating, like the experience that you're creating with your clients and trying to deliver on a brief. You're trying to create trust and create that experience, what it's like to work with you. So if you're free flowing with information and if you understand what you do, and it comes across in your materials because it's a great experience. There's no questioning. We don't want, from a recruitment perspective, I don't want hiring managers coming back to me going, oh, I'm not sure about this individual, because it does happen when we've interviewed someone and we're like, yeah, they're amazing. And, I will give people another opportunity to update their portfolio. And I've had people from like SOM, I was just about to say KPH then. Is it KPH? KPF. KPF. OMA, who have sat there and gone, yeah, that will do. And I've been like, are you sure? You actually haven't got all the information in there. Oh, no, they'll know what I mean. And then they've been rejected. So even people at really, really well-known companies get rejected because they've had that attitude of, oh, it will do, or no, they'll get what I'm talking about. People don't assume things these days. And like I said to my platinum subscriber this morning, there's loads of people out there who have been dishonest. They've put other people's work in a portfolio. They've got the job and then they've sat there in the job and they can't do the work. So, just be honest with your portfolio, make it a great experience by adding all the work that you've done, and take the reader on a journey. It's a storytelling exercise. This morning we were talking about, like, when it comes to landscape, urban design and master planning projects, tier one hiring managers want to understand, what's the story behind the land? How did you bring that into the project? How do you want people to feel moving through the spaces or land, etc.? That's what I need to know in your portfolio, and that's what captivates your audience, i.e. me. Talent acquisition. In fairness, I'm not sure how many talent acquisition out there understand it in this kind of way, but certainly the hiring managers, they want to understand that you understand the story. And when you put that into a portfolio, your portfolio comes to life, and that's what people gravitate towards. You're pulling them in. So I hope that answers your question, Sinead. That was a rather long answer. Rowan, okay, can you explain how CVs in human voice, like the template is, just black and white in bullet points, and I'm adding my description of my tasks in each place? Yeah. So I think everyone kind of does it in that way. It doesn't really come across like you enjoy your job. It just looks like you look at a CV template. And I do think this is why there's such a heavily weighted kind of view on the portfolio. So when we are looking at CVs and portfolios, if the information isn't in the portfolio itself, then there needs to be an alignment. So human voice, I mean, sit down and think about how you write your emails or how you talk to your friends. Like, the people who stand out for me are the ones who explain how they've contributed to the project's finishing on time, or they've finished it ahead of time. What are the measurables that you can add in there? But also think about how you talk to people on a daily basis. Who are you? It's kind of, I find this difficult to answer without kind of knowing you, Rowan, because everyone's different. And this is what you kind of need to take on board. It's your document at the end of the day. Think of yourself as your own business of one. Who are you? How do you want to be perceived? Now, this is a very tricky question for most people to answer. So what I want you to do, Rowan, is actually go away and have a think about who you want to be, how you want to be perceived even. And then you can start tuning or rewording your CV and your portfolio to be a bit more human-like and to captivate your audience. So I hope that answers your question. Oh, Sinead, you are so very welcome. Thank you very much for your answer. Unfortunately, I've done, as you say, yet still no interviews. I'll keep trying. Right, okay, so yeah, without seeing your documents, it's really difficult to understand why you're not. But start doing research on commonalities with the companies that you're targeting. Put together a list of projects that you've worked on, which companies have produced similar projects to those, and start kind of looking at other avenues. Maybe your CV and your portfolio are telling a different story. So be really honest with yourself. Have a look at the documentation side by side. If you're creating any kind of misalignment in some way, shape, or form, it's, from our perspective, when we're going through a lot of CVs, if the CV tells one story and the portfolio tells another that aren't in alignment with, say you're talking in your CV and you are working on the technical side. So you're producing detailed working drawings, construction drawings, technical design, this kind of stuff. If that isn't, if you don't have those drawings in your portfolio, then they're not aligned. So you need to update the portfolio. So really kind of go through each document and make sure that there's an alignment, make sure that there's an alignment with the companies you're approaching, and also LinkedIn. I see so many people, when I go through their CVs, they have design architect, and then I go onto their LinkedIn and it's technical architect. And it's like, okay, I understand that every stage of a construction process or architectural process, it has design in each title, but you've got two different titles, and that just creates some sort of question marks. You want to reduce the amount of question marks. That's what we're trying to do here. Build trust with your future potential employer. Ignacio, lovely to have you here. Right, actually, I need to scroll on a bit, don't I? Sugar, right, there's me yabbering on. Medea, really enjoying the masterclass today, Hayley. You're very welcome. I create 3D floor plans for STRs and real estate. What would you say is the best way to reach out to potential clients in this space? So do some research. Like, AI is great for this stuff. So, do some research on the types of companies, even get it to kind of have a look at the work that you produce, and maybe kind of come up with a few. In fairness, I did say to my friend last night, my AI is acting up. I use it for ideas and stuff, and or kind of solving problems on my side, and it's coming out with all sorts of things. So don't completely trust it. But what I'm trying to say is utilize things like LinkedIn to identify the kind of clients that are right for you and the work that you produce. Find commonalities in that work, and then start putting a list together. You know, you want to get yourself out there on LinkedIn. If we look at the figures week in, week out, and I will keep bringing this up, but if we look at the figures of these LinkedIn lives week in, week out, there's over 2,000 of you who watch, and then there's such a small handful of you that comment and interact. So, you really need to start getting yourself out there. What I see, especially from architects and designers, they reshare other people's work. That is great, but then we don't get to understand who you are as an individual. By all means, reshare people's work so that your name is out there, but also post so that we get to learn who you are as an individual. Each and every one of us is completely unique, so we want to understand who you are as a person, and that's what people gravitate towards. Like, I've got meetings this week with people in recruitment, website design, finance, emailing, like all sorts of industries, because there's something that I see in them that I think, oh, I really, really like what they've said. And we've got big plans for these LinkedIn lives and trying to get the message out there about portfolios and the options that you have with your job search. So I'm kind of just like an information kind of gatherer right now, but get yourself out there. I'm one of these people that if I see something that I like in somebody's LinkedIn profile, I'll give them a message. I'll send them a message and say, hey, like, I really enjoyed this, or I'll put a comment or whatever. Start getting your name out there. I think really the minute you start not saying a thing, it's very easy on LinkedIn to just kind of become a voyeur, I kind of call it, and that's the majority of what happens with people on LinkedIn. Only 1% of LinkedIn users actually post regularly. So, you could be talking about, say, software, for example. Maybe you've got an insight from your perspective. Maybe there's a problem that you've been facing in the office and you found that solution and you want to tell everyone else. Like, I think architects need to stop, and designers stop kind of getting so protective over everything. We need to start working with each other and leveling each other up. So getting these conversations going are great. But yeah, it's like the industry is never going to just stand still. There's always something new to learn. So by gatekeeping it all, you're not kind of achieving anything, because there's so much to learn out there. Like, just start getting in conversations with each other. Oh wow, we have Imran. Hello, lovely to have you here. Thank you everyone for engaging a bit more this week. It's really good to see. Thank you. Right, this is a very long question. Right, I think it's a question anyway. Many architecture and architectural technology graduates invest years completing undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications, developing strong technical and design skills. However, many job advertisements for candidate architects, I've never heard them called candidate architects, architectural technologists and similar roles still require 3 to 5 years of professional experience. How can graduates bridge this gap when they need experience to get hired, but need to be hired to gain that experience? And what can firms do to better recognize academic achievement, transferable skills and potential in early career? Wow. I might have to come back to you with some of that. Right, look. At the end, so I've worked with a lot of graduates. I've actually got a graduate on a platinum subscription at the moment. A lot of graduates, for whatever reason, come out of university and they come out of university and let's just say their tutors have really kind of bigged them up and said, don't worry, you've got a first or you've got a 2-1, you'll be snapped up in a jiffy. And it's they sit there kind of waiting and going, and no one kind of knocks on their doors. So what you need to do is sorry, accidentally clicked on my mouse. What you guys need to do, if you're a graduate in the technology or, well, look, I'm going to put this back up here. It was blocking off my face, so I was like, so still require 3 to 5. So, right, what you need to focus on as a graduate, what I want you to do is think about, and I mentioned this earlier, how do you want people to view you? So, how would you like to be perceived? And this is a really tricky question for most of us to answer. You know, you're going to have to invest a bit of time in this, sit down in a quiet room and kind of think about these goals for the future. But what you need to do is put together your CV and portfolio. Include all of your undergraduate, postgraduate work, and you start getting out there. Start thinking about what kind of company that you would like to work for. Put together a top 20, then start doing your research on the projects they're working on, the software they use, and what kind of people do they hire. So have a look at some of the graduates that work for some of these businesses, and you need to start researching and learning about what and who they employ. So from there, don't worry about like they're looking for people with 3 to 5 years experience. Businesses these days have their preferred kind of universities that they go to. So they will do talks, etc., etc. But that doesn't mean to say that they're not going to be looking for people outside of that. You know, the people who stand out for me are the people who take the initiative, have an awareness of their personal brands. So the CV and portfolio are kind of branded in a way, so is their LinkedIn, and they start getting themselves out there. The coaching session that I had this morning, she was brilliant. She was like thinking about, right, okay, so how do I get visible out there? And LinkedIn is a perfect way of doing this, to, you know, put together a list of companies that you really want to work for, start researching all their software and stuff, so that you can start getting a plan in for your whole career, not just now, but have conversations with people. Don't be afraid, especially when you're a graduate, to be curious. Start getting questions out there, and start posting on LinkedIn. Don't be afraid that no one's going to interact with you at the beginning. Or I tell you what, I've got a great idea for you. Get your year together at university, start like brainstorming what to put together, and also start engaging with each other on LinkedIn. Start kind of building a bit of a network with your your year and anyone else. And who are your mentors out there? Start like, reaching out to your mentors. What do they look for in graduates? Start kind of getting really curious about what skills that you need to learn, or what skills they look for, and then you can start working that into your CV and portfolio if you have those skills already. I hope that helps. I will answer the last bit of that. I've got quite a few questions coming in. So I know, I think I've answered that. I'll come back to you afterwards. Sinead. Oh no, Rowan. I'm getting all mixed up here. So Rowan, thank you very much. We'll review, and lovely getting to know you. Lovely getting to know you too. And good to see you here. Great to see you engaging. Sinead. Yes, I agree. It's impossible for you to answer specifically to me without seeing my work, but I do appreciate you taking the time to try and help. You're very welcome. Yeah, just so everyone knows, I am in a piece of software called Restream. So I'm not live in the LinkedIn kind of sense. I am live, but I'm not actually on LinkedIn. So some of the time I can't see your names, for example, and I can't click on URLs or anything like that. So afterwards, if there's anyone like that who's coming on up in the questions and answers, I will come back to you later, because I can't click on them in Restream. Otherwise I'm stuck. I'd be like flitting between LinkedIn and Restream, and be a bit difficult. So, Rowan, regarding the LinkedIn profile, I always get hesitate to post my work in a company because of my colleagues in the same company. So, is there any place that I can post and still look legit for reviewing? Thank you. Kind of need you to give me a bit more information there. What's the issue with your colleagues? Is it because it's a stage you're working as a team together? Could you give me a bit more insight there as to why that's an issue? I think maybe you're thinking about you're just worried that they're going to see you out there on LinkedIn, and I think these days, people it's rare for people to stay in a company forever and ever and ever. um, we all move on. Well, although maybe I'm not one of them. I have had my own business for 18 years now, nearly 19. But that is rare, and also we all need to get ourselves out there for our careers. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be looking for a job. You're just trying to learn and gain insights to better yourself in the work environment. So I guess it all depends on how you perceive people are thinking about you being active on LinkedIn. It's not all about finding a job. There's loads of things. Like I've worked with people on their LinkedIn profiles to get themselves out there, and now they're still at the same company. They haven't gone anywhere, but they're doing like live talks and stuff, and they're getting themselves out there as an industry kind of thought leader. So look, there's loads of options when it comes to LinkedIn. I wouldn't worry about what your colleagues think. Yeah. That's my opinion anyway. I know it's daunting getting yourself out there on LinkedIn. I have to say, like, it hasn't been easy for me to do these LinkedIn lives again. And I was really, really scared. And you'll see a massive difference in me at the beginning of doing these back in, I think it was April, May. We're now in June. So I feel a little bit more comfortable. But, for me, it's like, I still get worried every week. Oh, is anyone going to turn up? Is anyone going to be there? Does anyone want to actually listen to these things? So, you're always going to have those doubts in your mind, but you need to start blocking those out and thinking the opposite, training your brain to go, right, okay, that's just a limiting belief. It's not remotely helpful to me. It's going to hold me back. So how about we start thinking a different way so that we do progress? I personally regret not carrying on the LinkedIn lives from COVID times because, I think my whole world would have changed in between then and now. Okay, so I've learned a lot in between then and now, but, I think we kind of hold ourselves back unnecessarily, thinking about what people think or whoever, are we going to say the wrong thing? Yeah, sure, you are going to say the wrong thing. I say the wrong thing all the time. But we are all human. As long as you correct yourself and you're genuine, you're going to gravitate, or people are going to gravitate towards you because you are being open and honest. That it's really obvious to see, even in a job search, when people send a CV portfolio and they talk on LinkedIn, when they use AI. Oh, I'm not a massive fan of people commenting using AI. Now, I do understand that there's a lot of people out there that are using it as a bit of a crux because it is daunting to get yourself out there. And maybe that gives them the confidence to, question what they're going to reply back. But, I think you don't everyone just looks a bit meh. And I don't want to be talking to an AI when somebody posts a comment on one of my, or comments on one of my posts, should I say. I want to be getting to know who they are. If you're using an AI to comment, then we're not getting to know who you are, which is really frustrating. And I certainly see it in my feed that people are so bored already of AI comments, AI posts, AI CVs. So really try and steer away from it if you can, because you're all unique, you're all individual, you've all got your skills that people want to hear about, and all of you have a viewpoint. It's no good, having a team of, say, design architects who are in that briefing room with exactly the same view. That's exactly what hiring managers don't want. They want people from different perspectives to come together, so that when you're having a discussion about, I don't know, a design concept or whatever, you can talk about it as a team and come up with ideas. And it's like, oh, what about this idea? Okay, that would work, but have you thought about this? And it gets the conversation going. Like, I don't understand why, we all need to hide behind a company name, a project name, AI. We're not getting to know who you are. I want to know who you are. I want to understand your personality. Your personality will get you far. And also, it does help with the job search, I have to say, because you are trying to find common traits with new members of staff, right? You want to know that they're going to gel well with your existing team. So they want to get to know what your personality is, so that you will fit in with your team. If you don't get on with your team, that's usually because there's a mismatch there in personality fits. So, it benefits you in every aspect of your job search. Right. Seem to be got this energy to talk today. Waffling on. We're at 50 minutes, so I am going to have to go because I do have a meeting afterwards. So if I've got more questions coming in, I will come back to you after that meeting. So, LinkedIn user: many high-end Dubai firms prefer candidates with local GCC experience. For a junior applying internationally, what specific evidence in a portfolio best mitigates the perceived risk of hiring someone straight out of university? I'm from India and I'm looking for graduate architect jobs in Dubai. So actually, great question. Thank you very much, LinkedIn user. So in a coaching session this morning, actually, we were talking about this because she actually has experience in UAE, but look, your understanding of a job, a project, your CV in your portfolio, putting a human voice into your documents is first. Branding, I can't go on about this enough, but when a candidate has an understand about branding, so that means that there's consistency with font, colors, look and feel with your CV, portfolio, and your LinkedIn, you've got to think that you've got at least 3 areas here that you can work on, and you can be unique and stand out against everyone else, which, by the way, is super, super easy, because most people out there, 90%, if not more, of job seekers use a CV template that we've seen a billion times. They use a portfolio template that doesn't match their CV template. So the fonts are different, there's different colors, it doesn't look and feel the same. Branding is one of these things that you can really communicate subliminally to the hiring manager, that you have an awareness of consistency, branding. So, when you get a client, and you're in that briefing room, their projects are going to want to be branded in some way, shape, or form. So they want to see consistency throughout the different, say if you're looking at a hotel, for example, a consistency between the size of rooms, how you, I don't know, I'm thinking on the spot here, the consistency with the colors. If you had like one room that is, okay, so there are hotels out there that do have unique rooms, but say you're like a branded kind of hotel chain, you want all your rooms to look and feel the same, right? So start using skills that you utilize on a day-to-day basis. You all have awareness of colors, what those colors represent, how to change things in a room, but there's still those consistent elements. Do this in your CV and portfolio and your LinkedIn. Utilize your LinkedIn. You've got that big header, that banner at the top. Start branding yourself. So your CV, LinkedIn, and your portfolio have a similar color, for example. There's loads and loads of options, but, I think LinkedIn user, it is super easy for you to stand out if you're branded firstly, but also that you're not using CV templates. You are designers at the end of the day. So use the very skill that you've been taught to use and embrace it. Never feel like you are doing something wrong. I think there's too much misinformation out there that you've got to conform to a 2-page CV and a 5 megabyte portfolio. It's absolute rubbish. like hiring managers don't think that way. They don't reject people because they put together a 2-page CV. They reject people because they don't have the relevant information in their CV and portfolio to warrant an interview. So get out there, start getting creative, and start thinking about your personal brand, and talk in a human voice in your CV. And then whatever you talk about in your CV, demonstrate that in your portfolio. I hope that helps. And lovely to have you here. Thanks for the question. So, right. I've got 4 minutes. Right. Okay. Rowan, regarding posting on the LinkedIn profile, many companies won't be comfortable seeing, for example, me to post about my work or contribution. So what can I possibly post other than my work? Right. So what about insights on software that you've been working with? Have you found any solutions for issues that you've faced? Also, what kind of company are you working for? I was talking with my platinum subscriber this morning. I've brought her up quite a few times actually, but she's got a beautiful working environment where she's got a lovely relationship with her boss. And she's just like, she gets inquisitive about what she's allowed to do and what she's not allowed to do. Like, you're proud of the work that you work on. You should be singing from the rooftops about it, and even if you've got to frame it in your mind a completely different way. If you're proud to work on something, and you're telling the world about it, that business is getting free marketing at the end of the day. I don't understand it. I mean, I do understand the architectural and design industry. You're very kind of it's a bit cloak and dagger sometimes, and there's all this secrecy and stuff. But honestly, the businesses out there that are flying, that have come out of being a 40-man business, that are now 250 in a space of a few years, are the businesses that are really open and honest with their employees, and they work together. What betters them, the candidates or the employees, betters the business. Start reframing all of these to a more positive way of going about posting on LinkedIn, producing a CV, producing a portfolio. Start getting inquisitive in the workplace so that you understand it from their perspective, understand it from your boss's perspective. Why aren't we allowed to do this? Why aren't we allowed to do that? I would love to tell the world about the projects that I'm working on. Obviously you do need to use your discernment in this, but start getting inquisitive. I don't understand, are you all just in a box, kind of not talking to each other every day? If you are, I can understand if you would want to move on. But really, this is about your career as a whole. If you feel like you're being held back in some way, shape, or form, you're not progressing. You need to do the uncomfortable things. But you don't need to just talk about the projects. You could talk about, somebody else's project, for example. You admire the way that they've designed this or put this together. That you don't need to always talk about the business that you're working for. If they're not comfortable with that, then fine. But there's loads of projects out there, that you could admire from afar and talk about. So you've got loads of options. I think you just need to explore different viewpoints, and there is a plethora of other options out there. You can talk about software, you can talk about the industry as a whole, you can talk about another business's projects or location or what's going on in the industry. Like, there's loads of subjects out there, everyone. So I hope that helps. Right, excellent. Thank you very much, Hayley. You are very welcome. Right, I'm going to have to go very shortly. So Medea, thank you so much for that, Hayley. Really lovely advice. You're very welcome. Showing up as personally and genuinely myself rather than just a polished pitch makes a lot of sense. Yes, it does. Especially in an industry built on trust and relationships. Exactly. We are all trying to build trust and further our careers. And, as you do this, as you get more inquisitive and as you start to explore and learn, you find like people gravitate towards you, and then you learn more, and that opens up your viewpoint as well. Like, I had someone Oh, here we go. I've just got a notification. I'm going to have to come off in a sec. So yeah, I had I've lost my train of thought now. Built on trust and relationships. It's gone now. It's typical. Moreno, you are very welcome. I'm going to have to love you and leave you, seeing as I've had that notification come up. Otherwise, I'm going to waffle on for another 15 minutes and miss it. So what I would like all of you to do today is have a think about all the questions that you have for next week. Please scan and register on a recruitment website so that you can get 3 questions or 3 things to look at in your CV, your portfolio, your LinkedIn, your job search, and your personal brand that you can implement today. They're just a couple of or a few insights, but there's a plethora of options out there for you when it comes to your job search. So I really hope this has helped you today. And thank you ever so much for everyone who's come out of their shell and started commenting on LinkedIn. I'm really proud of you all. But yeah, thank you for engaging. And I'm really pleased that you're starting to have a conversation on here. Keep going. Let's keep the conversation going, guys. So everyone on here and across the network, if you're watching this on a rewatch or whatever you call it, I can't think of the word right now. Lovely to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you next week. So take care, guys.